Sure. Well, I'm happy to share, and I will go down those lists of questions there, Dorothy, just to keep us focused right now, too. And thank you, Pat, for setting the stage overall again. And now what we want to just do is focus in and prioritize. And that's been the fun of this time period of our life, I think, right now, because one of the things I appreciated about the Fry, Fisher, and Hattie reference in that resource that you had mentioned before is when they had said in there that this is right now a time for the students to be even more efficient and for us as educators to be even more efficient. And it really dovetails beautifully with all of our work. And what I always do is to really utilize those 4 HIL high impact leadership principles, because I think at the end of the day, they are just, that is just a wealth of wisdom and knowledge there. And what we can really appreciate and inspire the leadership teams with is the fact that these principles have made a difference. They have had high impact on the schools. And so what we want to do is just keep our focus there. And so to help me to do that and to help the team to do that, when I send any email, I'll always connect the thinking or our conversations or the questions or anything that we're working on right then. I'll always connect it with one of those 4 principles so that they can really keep their eye on that ball. And then so that's throughout the emails. They always know there's going to be like 4 little parts in the email. And then when we have a meeting, what we do is we use those 4 for our agenda as well. And so what we can do is just check in. Okay, how are we doing in each of these 4 principles? And then what we do is just take bite-sized steps so that we move from point A to point B. Well, what is our next step? And we want to always be conscious of the culture and the climate and the time of year, but we also want to take one small step forward. And so that way we can really hone in on those 4, keep our eye on that, and then really help develop these leaders in the building too. So whatever challenge comes their way, that they can always say, okay, let's apply those 4 principles, because then we know that we can make a difference and we can make a positive difference. So to do that, I thought I can just go forward now and give you some examples of what that means, because I can appreciate we've looked at these, but we've really, I think, clarified each of these 4 principles through the time that we've been together. And so when I think about some examples, I wanted to share with you the district that I work with currently. What they have really done is they have just started with a whole new reading series, for example. And so what we wanted to do is, first of all, to establish what are the strengths of that reading series. And there I'm thinking about building that positive attitude toward that resource. And you and I all know that there is no perfect resource out there, but what we want to do is we want to keep our teachers and our leaders and our principals focused on the fact that this is a very good resource. And so let's find the gems in there and then share that out so that when teachers get discouraged or think there's things lacking, that they can also reference the fact that, no, we've really identified some wonderful parts of that reading curriculum that has been purchased. And then moving over to across, when you think of the data piece and the evidence, well, let's think about it. Each district gives out what they are asking the schools to do when it comes to using their data and what data are they collecting. And Michigan is just sending out some updates on that as well right now, what they're expecting. But what we want to do is have nice clarity about that. And so let's talk about what our evidence decisions are going to be based on. What data are we really asked by our district and our state to collect? And then moving down to the collective ownership there, what we wanted to do is we really wanted to think about, okay, we're using a new reading series now. Now let's talk about how can we really keep our eye on the standards and aligning the standards to that reading series so that we own it as a school. Every grade level has their standards, and that we can just really understand that that resource is there as a resource, but we can't cover every single page of it. And what we want to do is we really want to keep our eye on those standards that are in there, that are grade level standards, and so that we can teach those to mastery. And then the last part is to organize the systems. There we were always thinking about, okay, we've got a new series. Now let's think about how can we organize our own teaching at each grade level so that we get systems built. So, and an example of that would be when it comes to vocabulary. Are we all teaching this, similar sight words, and so that we can track that growth through? Are we all teaching text structures and using the same language that you can appreciate, that the kids can really track with us much more efficiently if we're all talking the same talk, whether it's around phonics or whether it's around any of the standards, if it's close reading, that we really think about what we're teaching to the children so that each of our grade levels can build on the last one and always staying aligned to the standards in the meanwhile. So that's one example of just using a reading series, something that's brand new, but that really kept us focused as we started the year. I want to give you one more example, and then I'll go back to Dorothy's questions just to keep it nice and concrete for you. But the second example would be just as we started out this fall now, and we know that August has been very, what shall I say, challenging, but there's also with every challenge an opportunity, right? And so what a great opportunity for us to take this time and to say, okay, we have this opportunity before us to really craft our language and what we're modeling to the children so that we do it with intentionality. And so if we're going to really model a growth mindset right now, we really have wonderful opportunities. And so what we can do is think about what growth mindset principles are there, and then help the kids to see, yes, it looks differently now than it did, but there's lots of good things that we're able to see through it all. And then to really give the kids examples of how we have to flip our thinking so that if we see a problem, then right away we can see a solution, or we can see the opportunity that it presents us. And so what we did is we just tried to think of growth mindset kind of posters and ideas that we could really put on our screens in front of the children to have a discussion. We could go and show them different people. Like, for example, one that I just shared was one Wilma Rudolph, and she was one of 22 children. She had polio, and yet she went on to win the Olympics. And so just reminding the children that there's lots of people that have had challenges and that we want to learn from them. And so as we start this new year, there are challenges, but boy, there certainly are good things that are going to come from this as well. And so we try to focus on that, how we can think about this. Then moving over to the evidence-based decisions, or thinking in terms of our data. There again, what we wanted to do is we wanted to be sure that we understood what our district was asking about, what data they needed us to collect within the first 30 days. Because then if we could get nice clarity around that, then what we could do is make sure that the teachers didn't have anxiety about what it was that was going to be collected, and that we could really help the children be set up for success when they would take any kind of assessment that would be given to them, either in class, face-to-face, or online. But that we would help them to see that, you know, we wanted them to take their time to do a great job by rereading the questions, to show all the good things that they had learned in the last 6 months, and that we would use that to really help us know what next to teach them, and so that we could keep it very exciting and interesting for them, and just reminding the kids that this data really helps us so much as teachers. Then in the next corner, what we wanted to do is we wanted to think about, okay, as we start out our collective ownership in this new school year, what a better way than to really say, okay, what is a PLC? And that there are those 4 questions that a PLC really should be discussing as their rotating agenda. What are the children supposed to know, and how will I know if they know it? And reminding the teachers at each grade level when they have their time together that that's our focus, and that's what a PLC is to be about. And it's ever so helpful, and that's why it stood the test of time, because if we keep our eye on that, those 4 questions, and on that alignment piece around the standards, it's very, very beneficial. And then lastly, again, that organizational section to really think about, okay, if we're building systems, what a great time at the beginning of the year, because when we collect things right from the get-go, then nobody has to change things midway through. And, you know, teachers are normally, and I understand that, they don't like to add things on in October and change things up in October. And so it's very fun to have them say, okay, how can we better organize? Because most teachers are very organized, and they love that when they can see that there is that organization going on. And so for us to work as a team to decide what it is going to be, then that helps the school right from the beginning of the year. So those are the types of examples I just wanted to share with you. And then getting back to Dorothy's questions. And Dorothy, do I just have a couple more minutes, or can you tell me if we're okay?
You can keep going. Yeah, you've got
okay.
A little bit of time here.
All right, we had mentioned 11, so I want to be respectful of yours.
We got off on a little bit late start, so go ahead.
Okay,
keep going.
All right, very good. All right, I just wanted to mention how, so I'm going to just run down those 5 there then. So what have you and the school team decided is our most urgent work? Well, it's to really work on those 4 high impact leadership principles. And so taking small steps forward in every area. And that's what we do, is we decide what's our next small step. Then number 2, it says what questions and data and other information led you to this decision. And what we will talk about is the fact that that's the beautiful thing about having this grant. We have this resource, we have this time, we have this focus. And so now what we can really do is we can use what we know is going to make an impact on our school, and thereby really helping our children in every way that we can. And then number 3, to give an example where dialogue was focused on problem talk and how you move forward to positive. And I think what we just do there is every meeting has that agenda. And if we start with developing that growth mindset agenda, and to say, okay, what good things can we talk about right now? How can we model a growth, a positive mindset for the kids? Then that really sets that whole meeting up in a positive tone. And then number 4, what questions will the team need to answer to make positive progress on that issue? And I think therefore it's just to really help them to see that these 4 areas help us focus, and that we want to just take small steps forward, but always identifying those. Because I love the positive language around HIL too, that we talk about growth edges, we talk about benchmarks, we talk about vital behaviors, we talk about gold standards. And I think it's that whole attitude of this, we're on a rich, wonderful journey, and that we have a gold standard that we're aspiring to get to so that we can really, at the end of this all, that we can have a school that really knows what a growth mindset is for the staff and the children, and then they really use their data well, that they really track it carefully and help the children really learn and grow, and so that we can get right on top of things the minute we see a child struggling. And thirdly, we really use PLCs well so that they're aligned to those standards. That conversation is always around those standards. And then fourthly, that we help the kids, and basically by helping the adults be organized. Because I think you and I all know too that being a principal is a busy, busy, busy job. And there are so many questions that come at you at the course of the day, and we have a wonderful opportunity to really help the focus aspect of this. And so I'm so grateful for the HIL grant, and for you, Pat, for your leadership, and all of you. And so I'm available too if you had any questions. I don't know if this was as helpful as I hoped it would be, but we'll just know that if I can help in any way, I'm happy.